If you watch my previous videos, you know that I'm very serious about workspace design. A critical component of this is ergonomics, learning proper postures to decrease muscle fatigue, joint pain, and getting through the day a little bit easier. As they say, an ounce of prevention is worth than a pound of cure. Small, seemingly insignificant changes, even saving a few mouse clicks every hour, can make a huge difference. In the first part of this video, we will focus on ergonomics, and in the second part, we will discuss how to treat muscle knots or trigger points. Timestamps are in the description below, so if you'd like to skip to a certain section, feel free. Let's begin with desk ergonomics. We all lose track of our body position after we sit at our desk for a long time and end up in positions such as the arm lean, hunch forward, and slouch, all of which can cause pain. When you sit on your chair, try to sit in what's called the 90-90-90 position, meaning elbows, knees, and hips at 90 degrees. I recommend starting with planting your feet flat on the floor, and if your feet don't touch the floor, consider using a footstool, ream of paper, or floor mat. Use your chair's lumbar support optimally by scooting all the way back with your hips at about 100 degrees, which might be a little more comfortable. Next, adjust your armrests to keep your elbows at 90 degrees. Finally, adjust your desk height to keep your wrists neutral without any bend. You may have to get your chair a bit closer to your desk than you might be used to. Keep your keyboard within reach so any movement happens at the elbows. If you have to reach to get to your keyboard or mouse, you are setting yourself up for shoulder problems. I adjust my mouse tracking and scrolling speed on the higher side so that I don't have to drag my mouse as much. Over the years, I've tried several devices, including the Logitech TrackMan Marble Mouse and even the fancy MX Vertical Mouse. My all-time favorites and the one I can recommend are the Logitech's MX Keys keyboard with its palm rest and an MX Master 3 mouse, which I combine with a memory foam wrist support cushion when I'm at work scrolling through thousands of images as part of my work as a radiologist. As I showed in my productivity desktop tour video linked above, I use a combination of Apple trackpad with my left hand and a mouse on my right side so my right wrist is not being overused. I recommend choosing a keyboard with low profile to minimize incorrect wrist positions and avoid carpal tunnel syndrome. The typical symptom is night pain starting from the wrist, sensory symptoms affecting the median nerve distribution, and paresthesia is elicited by tapping at the wrist and by wrist flexion. Hand weakness may also ensue. As radiologists, we see enlargement of the median nerve on MRI, as seen on this image with the enlarged median nerve marked with the red arrow. It is initially treated conservatively with splinting and pain medication. Steroid injections into the carpal tunnel may help, and surgery is needed in severe cases. I encourage you to spend some time configuring a gaming device called Stream Deck so you can do repetitive tasks with just pushing an LCD button, saving you time and multiple clicks. Full tutorial linked above. Now let's talk about how to set up your monitor. Having your monitor too low or too high causes excess use of the neck and back muscles because they're fighting gravity. Neutral position is the best to keep all muscles relaxed. Using a laptop is the worst on your desk or in your lap. I suggest getting a laptop stand or using reams of paper to get the top of the monitor at eye level so your point of focus on the monitor is a gentle 15 degrees lower. We often forget that most monitors are adjustable. Keep your screen at arm's length. Keeping it too far away leads to leaning forward and eye strain. If you're using two monitors, put both of them in front and not one off to the side to minimize neck rotational strain. Laptop use often leads to the worst ergonomics, so I recommend buying a laptop stand such as this one from Rain Design, and I use it with a wireless keyboard and mouse. When using the phone, use it on your left ear if you're right-handed to minimize shoulder strain for short conversations, especially when taking notes. Consider using a headset for longer conversations and for meetings. Standing. We are not built to sit. Sitting is considered as bad as smoking. Many of us buy expensive standing desks, mats, and sitting stool, but still don't stand enough. The idea here is to increase mobility. Research studies have shown that there is increased risk of dying from sitting more than 8 hours a day with no physical activity, and this risk was the same as risk of death from obesity and smoking. It's true, sitting too long can kill us, even if we exercise, according to research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Another study in PLOS One found that too much sitting can also affect our brains, decreasing the thickness in the median temporal lobe and is linked to Alzheimer's disease. When standing, stand up straight, with weight evenly distributed in both feet, and keep your hips tucked under. Consider an anti-fatigue mat, which can help the strain of standing. I use the Topo Not Flat Standing Anti-Fatigue Mat with calculated terrain, which encourages me to move more. I like to stand bare feet at home to massage my feet. If possible, in your job, listen to music at a low volume while standing, so you'll move a little bit more. Consider standing after eating, especially after a big lunch. That might help with burning those extra calories. Don't just rely on the standing desk. Try walking with your colleagues for meetings rather than sitting in a conference room. Do some steps when possible. Commit to taking the stairs and avoid the elevator. I never use elevators at work. It's been a few years now since I went one at the hospital. Alternate standing and sitting frequently. There are two types of breaks to consider. First, micro breaks, which are about 30 to 60 seconds long, to be taken about 1 to 2 times per hour. The recommendation for longer breaks is ideally once every 30 minutes, but 60 minutes at the top of the hour, for example, seems like a more practical approach, even if standing is only for a few minutes. Some people use apps that set reminders to remind them to move. Consider buying the right casters for your chair to increase mobility when working in a carpeted area. Another suggestion is to stand up when you're doing activities that don't require constant typing, such as when on conference calls. I tend to stand my desk before I walk away for a break and stand when I return for a few minutes. I also find it easier to stand early morning rather than late in the day. Now let's discuss how to treat muscle knots or trigger points. Bad posture leads to muscle knots or trigger points. When a muscle is relaxed, it looks like this, and when they contract, they look like this. Knots happen when muscles don't relax from poor posture, weakness, or lack activity. Try to create a movement-rich environment at your desk, and it helps to do these 3 simple exercises for neck and shoulder knots. First exercise is a chin tuck. Think of it as trying hard to create a double chin with your neck perfectly straight. I have a small double chin, so it comes easy to me. My teenage daughter is always making fun of it. The second exercise is the ear to shoulder stretch. Use your arm to stretch your upper trapezius. A variation of this exercise is the nose to smelly armpit stretch, which stretches these muscles at the back of the neck. The third and final exercise is to do shoulder shrugs and scapular retractions, holding them for 3 seconds. But most importantly, don't sit for long periods. If the trigger points get really bad, I recommend using a heating pad. These can be hard to keep in position, so consider placing a towel around it. I often bribe my kids to give me a massage after work. If that is not an option, experts recommend this torture device, link in description below. In all seriousness, it works really well, and you don't need to pay your little helpers. You can also use a tennis ball and stand against the wall for trigger point release. My wife and I use this blue tube, which is 6 inches thick and 36 inches in length, for 2 to 4 minutes before bed. Keep your hands by the side and over your head for 1 to 2 minutes each. It helps to relax muscles at the end of a long day working at the desk, and we sleep so much better. To minimize eye strain, you should know about the 20-20-20 rule, meaning look 20 feet away for 20 seconds every 20 minutes. It is recommended that the ambient lighting matches the brightness of your screen, which is stated to be 20 to 40 lux for radiologists. But in general, ambient light must be indirect, dimmable below and behind the monitors. Not be too dark or too bright, and when possible, use blue ambient lighting to minimize eye fatigue. I recommend Philips Hue strips below and behind your screen, which can be configured to any color depending on your mood, including the recommended blue color. Additionally, before beginning deep cognitive work, including for radiologists, allow your eyes to adjust for about 15 minutes to bring your vision to the optimal level. Some of my colleagues use artificial tears on a regular basis, and my wife raves about the OcuSight Dry Eye Compress with HydroHeat. Warm it in the microwave for 20 seconds and keep it on your eyes for 3 to 5 minutes. If my eye strain is particularly bad on a certain day, I borrow it from her to use. Let me know in the comments below how you like this video and if you have any questions. Do check out other videos on this channel, especially my productivity and personal finance series. I do my best to reply to all comments. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next video.